time,
All
Roman.
right, cool. Welcome to the Macworld podcast for June 27th, 2018. I'm Roman Loyola. Everyone's in studio today.
Everyone.
To my left, Leif Johnson.
Hey.
Jason Cross.
Hello.
And the most important man in the room, Dan
It's
Masuoka,
you,
our
Roman.
producer.
Hi.
Dan, as I always call him, the most important man in the room because he is the one who knows how to actually broadcast this podcast. Otherwise, we would never go on.
Sometimes I know what I'm doing.
He knows what he's doing. But most importantly, he represents you, the viewer. If you guys have any questions or comments about today's show, let us know on Twitter and YouTube. We're not on IGTV, not on Instagram TV, but on YouTube and Twitter. Leave a comment or question, and Dan is keeping an eye on those, and he'll chime in whenever you guys have something to say. So, say about today's topics, we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about the butterfly keyboards. We're going to talk about Apple headphone rumors. But first, we're going to talk about the big news of the week, Apple releasing the public betas of iOS 12 and macOS Mojave. So we might as well get into our poll right away because we did a poll on Twitter asking if people were running the iOS 12 beta. If people were, excited about it as we are. Maybe they are excited, but maybe they're tempered to excitement. The poll I thought was interesting. Out of 580 votes, 29% said, of course, they're using the iOS 12 beta. 22% are waiting until later versions of the beta. A whopping 46% said no way, it's beta, and 3% say their devices are not compatible, which Jason figured out is roughly 17 people who voted.
Something like that. Yeah.
So, but that's interesting also because that we always talk about, or there's always this thing about people using older Apple devices, and that holds true to a certain extent.
Yeah. It has to be really old to not.
Right. That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
Older than a 5S
Yeah.
is what you get or an iPad Air 2?
Is that
Air?
I think
First
so.
Air? I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
5 years at least worth of devices.
Right.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So not a lot of you are using the beta. Of course, we're writing. All we're doing is writing about the beta.
Right.
I did get an email, I want to say a week ago, from a reader saying, "Why are you guys talking so much about the beta? We can't run it." And I was kind of like, "All right, well, there's a long, convoluted answer to that."
Yeah. But
So,
it's still true that almost everything we write about the beta is true of the final release.
Correct.
This is what you're going to experience, even though you can't run it now.
Correct. Yes.
So that's,
And also,
preview.
if you're not running the beta, us posting these articles give you an idea of what's coming up.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe you can't experience it, but you can at least read about it and see what's going to happen.
And our poll is very self-selecting because it's Macworld, right?
Right.
But only 46% plus 3% I can't run it. So basically half of all the people who answered the thing just won't run the beta at any point.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Imagine if half of all of Apple's customers were going to run the beta of iOS 12. They'd get a lot of testing. They'd probably get too much testing.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that's not true. I'm sure once you take everybody, not just the people who answer Macworld Twitter polls, it's not nearly half of them are going to end up running this beta.
Yeah. So Apple does these betas because they need the feedback. They want trying to put out stable software and stuff and get feedback from people. So that's why they do it. And the iOSs are free, or the OSs, both of them are free.
Yeah.
So.
And they make it really easy to
The feedback.
to do one to do feedback. Like first of all, I think in the betas, all of them give diagnostic info to Apple. I don't think that turns off the same way as in the final. But there's also a feedback app.
Yeah.
But they also make it just easy to participate. Like you don't have to. It used to be you had to download files and iTunes this and now you just go to the right website. You go to beta.apple.com on your iPhone. Click iOS. It'll download a profile. yes, I agree to be in. Download a profile. It downloads it to your phone, and then your phone just gets updates just like it would every other OS update. Just software update does it.
And it's just as easy for Mac that way too.
Yeah. So that's way different than it used to be.
Yeah.
So I have a question. One first, Elf says they recommend everyone do a backup pre-beta install.
Yes.
Yep.
And then
first thing they tell you to do, backup and archive.
And then I wonder if you guys would be more likely to write an article, 5 reasons why you should install the beta, or 5 reasons why you should not install the beta.
Wow. Well, Jason, you kind of
we just actually kind of did that article. It wasn't 5 reasons, but it was basically should you install it or not, and what the reasons you may or may not. And Apple always tells everybody, do not install this on your primary device, the thing you use every day, because it's beta, and that's generally our advice as well. But I think iOS 12 changes things up in a couple significant ways that might change your mind a little bit.
Right.
And the first is that compared to other sort of first beta releases, first public beta releases, it's pretty stable.
Yeah. Now, just to clarify or to point out, you've been actually using developer betas.
Yes.
So not just the iOS beta that's only been out for a few days.
Yeah, the public beta is the same version as the second developer beta.
Right.
That's been out.
So you've been using it for a while.
So I've been using it for a while, and the community's been, using it for a while and reporting on it. And it's more stable than usually these early betas are. There still are problems. Like I had GPS problems this morning and stuff. So there's issues, but it's not like usually it's a crashy mess until at least August.
Right.
And it's not like that. The other is that performance is usually terrible in these early betas.
Right.
It only just right when it gets almost released, do the betas get to be as performant as
optimize it.
Yeah, and that's not true. In fact, the iOS 12 is faster. It's the benchmarks aren't going to show a lot of difference, but because the speed ups they did are not things that show up in benchmarks, but they're things about how fast things open and scroll and smoothness, but it feels faster, especially on older devices. And then usually the battery life is just awful in the first few betas, and it's not awful in iOS 12. It's at least as good. So being that that's the case, being that this might, if you have an older device, this might speed it up. You're not going to have a battery life issue, and of course you get all these cool new features.
Right.
Well, maybe you can live with a few crashing apps or some GPS problems that normally we would say just never do this. So I say back it up, and still I say if you've got a secondary device, we usually used to say, well, run it on your old device.
Right.
Now I say, just make sure your old device is up to date and has all your data on it, so you can use that in a pinch, and go ahead and put it on your primary device and just have that as your backup.
Well, I remember the iOS 11 beta was notoriously slow.
10 was that way as well for a while.
Crashy. Yeah.
Well, iOS 11 release was kind of slow.
Right, that's true. It never really, it got a little bit better, but it was still
the speed got better. The battery life problems got resolved, but
and it's a good sign that this is so stable, because that was what the idea is that we wanted to have a little bit more stable release for iOS. Improve over 11, go back to what we expect from Apple.
So reasons. I don't know if there's 5 reasons other than listing all the cool new features in iOS 12. There's way more than 5.
Yes.
But reasons not to are it's crashy, and it's a little crashy, and it's a little problematic. GPS seems to be sort of the big thing that's kind of affecting everyone. It's really flaky. Sometimes it works great. Sometimes,
on the comments on the poll at Petter1 or at one Petter1 says, I use it and love it.
Yeah. I'm curious if anyone watching or any of the respondents to the Twitter poll are running it and hate it. Running it and just oh, this is awful, I'm going back.
One person says, at numbers912 says, yes, they're running it, but it seems to be draining battery like the clappers.
See, I did notice, I'm using a 7 Plus right here, and I did notice that it seemed, that's the best I can give you, is that the battery was going down faster. But other than that, I like it. So, yes.
Yeah. Your first day or two of any new OS installation, battery life won't be as good because it's doing background stuff. It's indexing things and all this other stuff.
Well, we have a couple comments. Alf says they love it, and Andre says I'm skipping the beta this year. So there's a 50-50 right there. Oh, and Digital or Talman says on YouTube, the iOS beta are running great on both my phones and iPad mini. With the exertion that the Springboard crashes frequently and my GPS will crap out regularly, ailing with Bluetooth.
Oh, so another GPS issue.
Yeah, there seems to be, at least in this version of this what was developer beta 2 and the public beta, GPS is flaky. Which if you're a daily, every day using that GPS a lot, maybe you skip this beta release.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Alf makes a comment about that the beta is not supported by AppleCare. So if you have a problem, they'll wipe your phone.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a good point to make. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is beta. Use at your own risk. Back up your data. Back it up regularly. And you can always back out of the beta if you don't want to use it anymore. Jason has an article on how to go back to iOS 11.
What it does when that happens, you put your phone in recovery mode, you plug it in your iTunes, and it says this needs to be recovered. It'll download the latest non-beta release and apply that. So that's 11.4, and your backups, you can only restore a backup from 11.4.
Right, that's true.
So if you keep making backups of iOS 12, those are you're not going to be able to restore those backups. So before you install iOS 12, back up your phone and then in iTunes do archive and archive that backup, put it somewhere else, and just so you always have an 11.4 backup ready just in case everything goes bad.
Right.
Personally, I don't worry too much about it because all the data I really need is in the cloud.
Right. Same here. Yes.
So with the exception of like maybe some games that don't cloud save or something like that, I don't really have a lot of stuff that I worry too much about.
The couple of times when I have actually had to redo my iPhone that way, I'll be honest with you, I've just started from scratch. Mac is a different case because I have a Mac where I have everything in its right place. This is the way I want it. But iPhone, I don't really care. I just re-download everything.
Sometimes it's nice to start fresh. It brings a lot of clarity about like, do I really need? I haven't used that app in I don't know how long. I don't need that.
Yeah. So there's also the Mojave beta that's out. If any of our viewers have been using either beta, the Mojave or the iOS 12 beta, let us know what your experiences are. Got any favorite features? Got any complaints? Let us know.
What's your favorite feature of Mojave? You've been using that, I think, more than we have.
Yeah. It's funny. It's more. Jason Snell actually pointed this out to me. Jason Snell, who writes the More Color column, and he has a website, 6colors.com. It's not really like my favorite feature, but it was like kind of like, I didn't know you can do that. So I actually really like the desktop stacks a lot.
Okay.
I mean, it's not really I don't know if calling it a marquee feature seems odd because it's sort of like
I mean, different things for different people.
Right.
I have nothing on my desktop ever,
so
I don't care about that feature.
See, I do this weird thing where I save things throughout the day on my desktop, and then I go organize it later.
Right.
I do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's sort of like, and like, if I'm working and then it gets all messed, everything's out, and then
So that's your favorite thing is the stacks?
So stacks helps me organize that. But Jason pointed out to me that there's actually a way, if on the desktop, there's actually a way to mess up your desktop again.
Yeah, you can, what is it? So
it's like
they've always had cleanup, which just kind of makes everything in nice grid.
Right.
And now they have a mess up as well. If it's cleaned up, you can hit mess up. If it's just too orderly.
Yeah. So there's a mess up desktop command. And I don't know. I just felt, Jason told me that last night, and I just thought it was pretty funny.
I wonder if that is partially, I wonder if that's going to go away after the beta. I wonder if that's that they have to have an easy way to make everything messed up so that they can like test stacks.
Exactly.
And stuff.
That's what Jason thought too. That maybe, or Jason Snell thought too that it would maybe go away. He wasn't quite sure it was going to stay.
I like it. It's playful, and I think I'd like to see these little playful things that don't really matter.
Yeah,
but they're fun.
Yeah, that's why it kind of stuck in my head. Even this morning, I was thinking, oh, that's it's because it's not really a feature that most people maybe will find useful. Maybe they will, but like you said, there's a playfulness to it that.
If you have OCD and it's like I gotta work this out, you just mess it up a little bit, and then you go, I'm not gonna touch it, and you force yourself.
Yeah, that's true. I like the new screenshot function because they always have had the was it Control Apple or Shift Apple 3 and 4?
Yeah, Command Option 3.
Command Option 3 and 4. Now there's Command Option 5, which makes a screenshot tool that works the way it does on iPhones, where you get a little pop-up in the corner of what your screenshot was, which you can turn off if you don't like. But you can quickly access that and crop it and edit it and stuff like that, and choose where those screenshots go instead of just them dumping on the desktop and everything. So I think I'm going to end up using that screenshot function instead of the other ones all the time, because I like to be able to just go, I just wanted this piece or whatever.
Right. Yes. One of the features that I really like is now recent apps show up in your dock. There's an option to have recent apps show up in your dock. It's similar to the dock in on the iPad Pro. Yeah,
it's like the Siri, although that's sort of Siri suggestions, or is that just recent apps?
On Mojave or
on the iPad, isn't that also?
I forget if
you kind of use these apps often.
Yeah, I mean it's over on the right. So it's. I mean I use the feature myself often, but it's been there for a while.
So it's kind of like the documents, folder or whatever.
Yeah, it just adds a little section to your apps and goes like, these are the ones you used recently.
Because I use the app, I always go to the Apple menu and then click recent items and then click the most. Because a lot of times sometimes there'll be a phase where I'm using an app a lot, but I don't use it regularly enough to keep it in my dock.
Yeah.
So I go to the Apple menu, then hit recent items, and then pick the app that I'm using. But now that it's in the recent items in the dock,
there's one change to that I've noticed this too, and there's one change to that I'd like to see, which is I want them to, at least as an option, have it not put apps there that get triggered by opening files from Finder.
True, right.
Right? Because I don't need my video viewer or VLC or preview always being in there just because I used preview.
Right.
Because I'm always using them from Finder.
Right.
So it's something that you launch from the app itself. And maybe there's an option. I haven't dug into it.
So on Twitter, I hear Mojave dark mode.
Yeah, I was waiting for y'all to get the dark mode. I started playing. That was one of the things I was the most excited about because writer Ulysses and stuff. I do a lot of working in dark mode, and I was surprised to find I was kind of ambivalent about it. So yes, and it's cool to have the option certainly. But the biggest shock to me was that the Mail app actually works in dark mode too, and I didn't know what to make of that. It was just so. But when I was looking in Finder, I somehow find the dark background a little distracting when I was looking for files and stuff. So it's really cool that the headings and stuff are there. But yeah, for the actual productivity stuff, like looking through Finder, looking through Mail, like I said, that was the real shocker. I was just like, I don't know if I like this, but I like that it is an option. Yes.
Yeah, Jason and I were talking about this before the show. I like dark mode, but the problem is that what we're finding is because the third parties have not flipped the switch for dark mode yet, or they haven't implemented dark mode yet. There's an inconsistency.
So it's like bright and then dark and then bright and then dark.
Yeah, as you use different apps.
Yeah. So it's in the Apple apps, but if you're using a third-party app, the third-party app's not dark.
I'd really love to see a timed thing, and I think, like you said, Jason Snell pointed this out, and I think on his site, where either have it say dark mode after sun goes down or dark mode after 10 p.m. or something like that, where I can set, and because I probably would prefer light mode in the middle of the day when it's bright out.
Right, kind of expand the dynamic desktop thing.
Yeah,
to
exactly
the whole UI.
And on YouTube, Talman says, I haven't had any major issues with Mojave other than the Force Quit app doesn't pop up many times that they try to use it.
I've noticed that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then Ashworth says, Apple said something, I believe, about Mojave running 32-bit apps with compromise in quotation marks. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering. Well, they said Apple said something, I believe, about Mojave running 32-bit apps.
I don't know about that.
Well,
I don't remember anything about.
I don't remember it being compromised in terms of performance. So Mojave is going to be the last version of macOS that will run 32-bit apps
At all. And you get a warning, just like you do now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That says, this is a 32-bit app. And you just say, okay.
Right. Just like, okay,
and then it works.
Leave me alone. It'll still work,
Mm-hmm.
but next year, whatever, is it 10.15? 10.15? This is 10.14.
Right.
Supposedly, the plan is that you can only use 64-bit apps on macOS. So they have not announced any plans if there will be like an emulator or anything like that.
Right. I've run a couple 32-bit apps on Mojave. It's just like it is now with High Sierra. You just get a warning and you say, okay. And
you get a warning, yeah. I don't know of any of compromised performance with the 32-bit app.
Nothing I ran is like a high performance app you would notice, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
The only couple of issues I've noticed while using Mojave is one, which is funny because it's Mojave. It seems to run a little hot on a 13-inch MacBook Pro. I've never really had that laptop feel hot, but it feels hot now. And second, Apple News crashes a lot. That's I
haven't run stocks much, but the new sort of the UI kit apps that they are translating from iOS to thing with the new UI kit support, that Apple's doing this first, and then developers will be able to do this next year. They're a little wonky still, which I guess is why Apple's kind of dogfooding it with their own apps and getting it in shape.
Oh, now I remember. The one feature that I thought was really cool because I was doing it yesterday is the continuity camera.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right, yeah. I always forget that exists, and I go, that would.
See, I forgot it existed.
And that's something that I could genuinely see myself use.
Yeah,
sounds a little complicated, is it?
It's actually not that complicated, but the one problem I did find was like, so the way it works is if you're in a Apple right now, it only works with Apple applications. So like I was in Notes, and then you right click in the note where you want to go, and then you have to select like take photo or scan document. And I was doing that, and then because I'm writing an article tomorrow on how it works and stuff, and I went back to, so I was writing, and I went back to do it, and it disappeared.
Oh wow!
So and I was like, all right, it's beta. So I had to actually restart my Mac. I couldn't just restart the application. I had to restart my Mac to get it to show up again.
Okay.
So there was a little bit of flakiness. But when it works, it's really easy. There's certain conditions, like you have to be on the same Wi-Fi network because I couldn't get it to work, and I figured out I was on two different Wi-Fi networks. You have to be on the same Apple ID. So those are the two main conditions you get it to work.
That's like most continuity stuff.
Right.
I mean, I can see this being really useful for like research back when I was a graduate student. You need to take a photo of a document or something like that, and boom, there it is in your research paper.
Especially how easily your iPhone scans documents, like in Notes, where you can make a PDF, by it'll right size it and adjust the everything. So
so that'll be very handy when they work out the kinks.
Is it always going to be just for Apple apps, or is there an API and just the developers haven't hooked into it?
I think there is an API.
Okay.
So I don't know what the API is though, but I thought there was. I thought
as long as people doing stuff in Microsoft Office and stuff like that will be able to use this.
Yeah.
Evernote stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So real quick, there was a question on Twitter. So are the betas available worldwide? What's the situation with that? And when do you think the full release is going to be out?
So in terms of the
yes, in September.
Yes. So actually, I didn't know that. I couldn't remember if the beta program is the U.S. only, or is it is worldwide?
It is. It is, as far as I remember, it is worldwide, but not necessarily available in every language.
Oh, okay, right.
That makes sense.
I don't think it's restricted to just English. I think they're testing things about, other UI languages and stuff like that. But I don't know that every final language is available for the beta. But it's not just US only.
Okay.
There may be specific laws in specific countries and stuff that prevent them from shipping the beta there.
Right.
I don't know if it's available in 180 countries or something.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not US only.
I'm not seeing anything about restrictions. So,
Yeah.
And then the Golden Master final versions will be released in the fall. It's always like the end of September-ish. So,
Yeah, at least for iOS,
yeah.
the pattern we've always seen is it's the second Tuesday of September, I think, is always the event where they announce the new iPhones, and then a week or two after that, the iOS release pushes out to everyone, and then the following week is when the iPhones go on sale at the end of September.
Yeah.
So that's your kind of September roll.
Right.
If they keep to that, that'll be the schedule, and then macOS is
Kind
right in
of
there
follows,
somewhere.
Right. Sometimes I don't remember if they released it High Sierra on the same day as, or maybe a day after, because sometimes they don't want to do it all at once. They want to
I think they kind of aim for in that same week, and it's not always landed in that same week.
Yeah, it's always at least within the same week, not always at the same day. So, so look for it in the fall. So, and you can even still, after the final versions are released, you can still run the betas. So you can still be part of the beta program if you're interested. So you'll get betas of the revisions that come out, because Apple wants your feedback on that. So if you're still interested in participating in the beta, you can do that.
And there will be a point at which you have what is essentially the final release that they're in the beta program. And if you remove that beta profile, it's fine. You'll just get regular releases, and you don't have to totally refresh your phone and stuff like that. You kind of don't know what point that is until it happens, though.
Right. So there was sort of a theory, I don't remember if it was a rumor or if it was based on anything, that Apple was kind of going to go away from these mass feature releases at once and kind of spread it out through the year. And this doesn't seem to be the case, right?
Well, yeah, and I was thinking that when it started happening, but I think, honestly, I think that's kind of a bad idea. I think Apple works really, I think Apple does really well with those big drops. I mean, people get excited about them. And so,
I agree with you, but it's not. Dan's giving us the signal. I think they should separate out some of the apps and let the apps update throughout the year and not part of the OS. But I think the big OS drop is fine. I think they just made sure it's a release that they could do it all.
Yes,
a little less overwhelming.
Right. Yeah. So look for. If you're it seems like most of you are waiting for the final versions. Just you'll have to wait till the fall, and perhaps in the fall we'll also hear something here, literally, maybe figuratively, literally, about some new Apple headphones. Our next topic. So, was it yesterday or Monday? The week's gone by like a blur.
Yeah.
So, there was it Mark Gurman?
Yes.
It's always Mark Gurman.
It's always Mark Gurman.
Almost sometimes
Michiko.
Yeah, it's Michiko or Mark Gurman.
Yeah, had a report about some high-end AirPods that could come out. Well, I mean, the projection is that they wouldn't be out till 2019.
Yeah, he said 3 audio products in 2019.
But I mean, they could show them in the fall and say they're coming out next year.
Yeah. So one was AirPods, but not to replace AirPods.
So not AirPods 2.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll call them AirPods 2, but they'll just be at a higher price, or maybe the same price, and they lower the price of AirPods or something like that.
Right.
But they will be a superset of the AirPods and not replace them.
And what would be the improvements of the new
They
AirPods?
said the rumors are better waterproofing. They're not going to be like IP rated, but they'll be sweat resistant and stuff. And you can use Siri without tapping on them. You can just say it.
Always on Siri.
I'm not trying not to say the phrase and screw up everybody's phone. But yeah, that's sort of always on Siri, and that's the only rumored things. There's things the rest of us would like better sound quality and stuff.
Noise canceling.
Yeah, active noise canceling. That would be a feat in those little tiny things, but
that would be some Apple innovation.
That really would.
Right. To me, the interesting part of his report was he said that there's a possibility that there would be over-the-ear headphones from Apple.
Yeah, that was the second one.
So,
and remember, I wrote that article earlier in the year because there was already that rumor floating around that Apple was planning on doing that. So
so there was just to clarify, there was a rumor earlier this year. I don't remember who that was. Was that Ming-Chi Kuo? Yeah, but Gurman kind of reaffirmed this rumor that Apple's working on cans,
and they're said to be high end, like what's the high end Beats, the $350 Beats? They're supposed to come in like that or better. Like it's supposed to be. These are not going to be $100 cans, according to him. They're going to be like $400 cans. They're going to be expensive audiophile headphones.
I hope they keep it like that though, because like the Bose Quiet Comfort 35s are like $350 and stuff. I know Apple, you like to keep jacking up prices, but I really believe that's getting towards the high end there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to justify spending that much on over the ear headphones. I don't fly that much, and I can't use them at the gym. A lot of people do. I see people with their big old cans at the gym, and I don't understand it.
How do you do that? No, I used to have a pair of Bose, the noise canceling. I can't remember which models they were, but they were awesome. Yes. They were just, but that's interesting. And then there was also a rumor. The rumor also has a HomePod refresh.
Yeah, whether that's a refresh of what they've got or a new HomePod or what, they don't say. They don't anything.
I hope they give that thing a good update because, it's kind of in that direction already. It just needs a good software update. And
the update that it needs is a Siri update.
Yes.
And as much cool Siri stuff as in iOS 12, none of it's really appropriate for HomePod. Like none of it's none of it is it answers your questions better. It's Siri stuff in iOS 12 is all about proactive suggestions and scripted stuff with the app and shortcuts app, Siri shortcuts, all that stuff. Giving app developers sort of an API to do that. All that stuff's great, but none of that stuff really works for HomePod.
But I think Apple is realizing, especially with the AirPods, that people really do want to buy audio stuff with them. And more importantly, I think people don't want to. There are many people that would buy something from Apple that would never buy a Beats thing. We can talk about reasons for that and stuff, but it's true. It's totally true.
Especially if they really nail the industrial design.
Yes.
Like if they have a really understated, good-looking pair of space gray over the your headphones, I'm like, I'd rather have that than Beats.
But what about? I said this before.
Based on that.
How about having the can shaped like apples?
Oh God, no.
No, I think that would be tacky and awful.
Wouldn't you guys buy that?
I would never buy that. That would make me not like. Even if they sounded and worked amazing, I would not buy them. I would not want to wear those.
I would buy it if they made them the 6 colors Apple.
They might have to do a special edition of that. I could see that. Kind of like the product red.
So. Do you guys think that having the Beats brand is doing anything for Apple?
I think people struggle to associate the two, honestly.
Yeah.
Should they just sell it off?
What it gave them when they bought it was a jump into Apple Music.
Exactly.
Yeah, but minus that.
Yeah, Apple Music was initially barely a reskinned Beats Music, their app, and and it gave them a lot of talent, a lot of people who were working with Beats on the Beats Music and stuff. And then other than that, like the actual headphone business, I don't know that Apple needs to be in that, and it doesn't lift Apple's brand.
No,
I don't think it lifts Beats brand. I don't think
it doesn't do anything for each other's brand.
Yeah.
Apple seems to try to distance themselves from it.
So I mean, at this point, they could sell off that business once they kind of got more Apple audio stuff going.
Exactly.
Like once they have Apple like over-the-ear headphones and AirPods 2s and HomePod, and then they could be like, well, who wants to buy a headphone company?
Maybe Dr. Dre will buy it back.
Buy it back. Yeah.
So.
Sell it to the title people.
One thing I would like to see, and I said this in my original article, is I would like to, because I love the way that the Bose, I keep coming back to these, Quiet Comfort 35s, fold up very nicely in my bag. And that's the kind of industrial design I would like to see from Apple. Something that, could take these big old pair of cans and make them super compact.
Fold like an M. And yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that if I would like to see something from the design, that would be it.
My main thing is the Bose headphones that I've used, and I think I've used the 35s. I've used 2 or 3 different pair. Do amazing noise canceling. Their actual audio quality is, it's okay.
Yeah.
There's Audio Technicas and stuff like that I would much prefer.
Right.
But they don't have noise canceling, or they have really crappy noise canceling. I won't even use this. So if you could Venn diagram overlap that, if Apple could have the Bose quality of noise cancellation and the sound quality of some of these really great high-end headphones.
Yeah. Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see what they'll come out later this year. See what kind of quality the quality of their headphones are. It seems like they're, take a cue from Beats or go in an opposite direction as Beats. I don't know.
If they're not supposed to do this, if these aren't supposed to release until 2019, there's a good chance that that's going to be what their sort of May thing is next year.
Right. Yeah.
They always do something in March. I mean, when they did the education
March
thing this time.
Right. They always have like
They often
end of winter, beginning of spring event.
Yeah.
Sort of. Yeah.
Every other year, maybe.
Right.
They have one, so maybe that's a March thing.
And I'm actually excited about that. I'll be honest with you. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they work. So, one thing that's not working for Apple.
There it is.
Are these butterfly keyboards that are on the laptops. So last week, Apple I was kind of surprised that they announced a service for people who are experiencing problematic keyboards with their recent model MacBook and MacBook Pros. And now I'm slipping into my mind what years they are. I want to say it's the 2015 MacBook.
It's all MacBooks.
Right, it's all MacBooks, and the 2016, the new form of the Macbook Pro.
The ones with the butterfly
keyboard. The ones with the butterfly
and
keyboards.
MacBook Airs never got that keyboard.
No, it's not, and that's why a lot of people say, buy MacBook
Yeah, I know. So stay with my Air, my USB-A, and my good keyboard.
So Apple has a service now.
And that's actually an older one.
Has there only been one version of the butterfly key, or has there been 2?
There have been 2.
They've supposedly improved it a bit with the more recent one.
Yeah, two versions, but not 2 that they marketed it as a new thing. It's sort of an under the hood. Oh, we tweaked a few things.
Yeah.
So granted, I've mainly been heavily using these for only like half a year now, but I eat chips at my desk. I do all that. I just throw my MacBook in my bag and stuff. And I mean,
everyone else.
Right. And I use a 13-inch and a 15-inch MacBook Pro. I've never had a problem. There was one day when I was scared that I did, and I actually think an app was acting up. I think that's actually what it was. And so other than that, no. And I actually kind of like the feel of writing on the keyboard. I know a lot of people talk, about the key travel, and they like that there's something satisfying. No, these guys know I sometimes write on my iPad Pro on the screen. So it's like, so I guess I'm one of the. I mean, obviously my opinion is going to change if I start having a problem with the keyboard. But as far as the actual design of them, I actually kind of like it. I do actually prefer typing on them.
So I'm not too familiar with this loss or with this issue, but Coral says they've been threatened with a class action lawsuit.
Yes.
Definitely.
So I don't think it's just threatened. I think they were filed, right?
I think it's been filed.
Yeah.
And so what's the deal? Is it like chips get under it and then it doesn't work?
Because it's so, Apple's been trying to make everything really, really thin.
Yeah.
And so the butterfly keyboard, has a design in which allows that, where there's not as much, key travel. And so it presses down. The problem is the way that works with the old type of keyboards. I forget what they call the springboard keyboards or something.
The silicone style.
Switch keyboard. But
original or switch. Yeah.
You could easily just take off the keys, and dig out whatever there and then snap it back on. We've all done it a lot, I think. But it's a lot harder harder with this one. And in a lot of cases, from what I've heard, that replacing it basically means you got to replace the entire front of the keyboard.
Yeah.
So that's
very
insane.
expensive.
Yes.
And because it's so thin and the way the mechanism works, it's easier to jam up with dust and stuff like that.
Yes.
But there's also been people complaining of issues like I don't have dust or anything in there, and there's just keys that don't respond sometimes, or they jam, they like repeat, and so Apple insists it's a small percentage of users, but won't give numbers. Very specifically, will not give numbers. But hey, a small percentage on tens of millions of laptops can be still a good number of people. So now the keyboard service program is, if you have any of these things, you can take it into Apple or an authorized Apple dealer, and they will test it and ensure that yes, you didn't snap a key off or something, that it's a flaw or fault, and they will replace it or repair it for free.
And importantly, if they see evidence that you tried to fix it yourself or somebody else tried to fix it, they will still repair it. Now, there are certain other things like, if it got, if it's water on it or something like that, that changes things.
Yeah, there's other kinds of malicious damage. They're also doing a refund program if you went to Apple or an authorized dealer and paid to have your Butterfly keyboard repaired before for one of these issues that they list. Then you can file to have that fund returned to you.
Very nice.
So you can get paid back for paying to get it fixed before. And that's all good. All of this stuff is good, but what they got to do is get a keyboard that doesn't have this problem.
Right. Yeah. Which kind of, if you're into theories and stuff, there was no hardware announcement announced at WWDC.
No MacBooks.
We thought maybe there'd be new MacBooks because there are new Intel processors that are out. We would like to see them.
They've been out. Where people are like, where are these? Yeah.
Right. So where are these MacBooks with the new Intel processors? And now there's a theory that maybe they're trying to figure out how to fix the keyboard, and
that's why we didn't see a new MacBook Air, because they had those Butterfly keyboards.
Yeah.
But that has to be completely different divisions within the laptop division, right?
Well, what we mean is they don't want to release, even if the processor upgrade stuff is ready, they don't want to release a new version until they've tweaked the keyboard to make it more reliable.
Okay.
Or replaced it with a whole new keyboard that they can go, it's our best keyboard ever.
Yeah.
And it's really just...
You can eat a whole sandwich right over it.
Yeah.
I personally don't like the typing action in the new one. I don't like the short throw, but worse is that to me is that it has an artificial clicky to it.
Yeah.
It's loud.
That is louder than the old keyboard.
The thing,
and I don't appreciate it.
The loudness doesn't bother me because I guess I'm so used to hearing keyboards when I'm at work and stuff that I've learned to kind of tune out. But there's like a depth to that sound.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like a deeper, there's like a resonance to it that is different from other keyboards that I'm used to hearing, where it's clickety clack, or even just like the keyboard. This is one of the reasons why I still use this laptop, is because I like the keyboard.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, there's a resonance to that keyboard that
it's a high pitch click,
it.
and at any volume, a lower pitch will be less annoying. You know? So they need a new keyboard. It's one of those things everyone complains about.
Yes.
I mean, notwithstanding Leif, who prefers it, and there are a small percentage of people who prefer it, but like you would want. If you were going to make a whole new keyboard, you would want a majority of users to think this is better.
Right.
Exactly.
And they're clearly not most people think this is better.
Yeah.
Melissa over at PC World actually sits several desks away from me, and she will sometimes say, "That's so distracting." The clacking on the keyboard.
It's a clicky thing.
Yeah.
She's gonna hate coming near us because we're using mechanical keyboards at our desks.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll ever have a just like get rid of the physical movement and all and go haptic?
It'd have to be really good to do that.
Yeah.
There's been rumors that they're going to replace it all with a screen so it can be dynamic and change on your. And I so hope they don't do that, because I have typed on more screens than I can imagine in various ways.
You can't
with
touch
all
type
kinds
on it,
of with all kinds of like software assistive everything.
Yeah.
And at best, it's kind of okay.
Right.
Despite what I was just saying earlier about that I sometimes do it. No, I do prefer typing on the MacBook. I'm just saying that's a possibility for me. No, I'm against the screen idea too. So
and it's weird because they did this with the touchpad, where The touchpad now no longer travels at all.
Yeah.
They fake it with the little Taptic engine thing.
Yeah.
And it's fine for the way that works.
Because your finger's always on there.
Right.
Your
Much.
finger's always on there. The way the little Taptic thing click works is it kind of fools your brain.
Yeah.
It really does a good job of it.
Yeah.
Keys are not like that at all, and I can't abide them saying, giving me a screen or something and saying it's the Taptic engine and we'll fix it all. And I remain very skeptical.
Yes.
Yeah. But somewhere in the deep recesses of the spaceship, there is a Mac laptop with just a screen.
Oh yeah.
I'm totally
what if
sure.
it was all touch bar?
So,
No, God.
I mean, I guess they could separate the functions so that like the press actually doesn't do anything. It's like touching the key is what presses it, but the physical movement is just a physical movement, so that even if it technically broke, it wouldn't mess up the registering of the key, if that makes sense.
One problem with the haptic thing is that, it's going to be another case of if a key stops responding, you're going to have to replace the whole thing, just like, now, basically.
Well, the other thing is, too, and maybe I'm getting this all wrong, if it was a haptic keyboard, wouldn't each key have to have an individual haptic sensor, so to speak?
The idea, not necessarily. You could have a grid.
Like the touch bar. I mean,
You could grid it out.
You could try to grid it out with sections and just.
See, I guess that gets to my point where it's just technically and there's no efficient way to engineer it.
Yeah, like the size is big enough that I think if you put 3 or 4 different little Taptic engine vibrators down there, you can make sure that it vibrates when your finger presses on the left and then again on the right when your right finger. You could work it out, but it's still. That whole thing has to be a screen that takes up battery life. There's all kinds of,
and it's more expensive
and it's more expensive.
Right.
And yada yada.
Yeah. So I mean, it might be to a point where it could never be affordable and technologically efficient to execute.
The big uptake of it would be that it would be completely configurable. Like you can have an API for app developers and everything else that make it could be dynamic, it could be configurable, it could do but they do that with the touch bar now, and it's like I don't want to have to look down at my keyboard to see how things have changed and what I need to do. I'm looking at my screen. Like that's the whole point of a laptop to me, as opposed to a tablet or a phone.
Mm-hmm. And the programmable keyboard would actually that'd be kind of cool. Like for instance, Dan, I know there are overlays that you can put on your keyboard, so you can do certain functions and stuff like that. So I mean, in production environments, that'll be very useful.
Sure, I'd almost rather see them release a separate device that was that.
Yeah. So.
But to have that be the only option integrated into my keyboard, into my laptop, no.
So
RGB, they used to have RGB lighting.
Yeah, I mean, it's that taken to the nth degree, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you have one of these problematic keyboards, you can go to our website and get information on the service program. While you're at it, you might as well bring in your old iPhone and get the battery replaced.
Yeah, that's still...
Because that's till the end of this year.
Yeah, is that $29 or is it $39?
I think it's $29, yeah.
Which is a heck of a deal.
Yeah. So do that too. You might have no devices for a few days, which might actually be refreshing.
The battery doesn't take that long. The battery is kind of a while you wait thing, so it takes a couple
depending
hours.
on how busy they are and what the queue is like.
You don't have to leave it overnight.
Yeah, how long does the keyboard, do they say?
They say it varies, because if they just replace a key, it could be quick. If they have to do the whole keyboard, it could be a while. Right. So they just say it varies.
So since we're talking about keyboards, do you? I mean, I don't think you think that they would ever do it, but Apple could be the only company that could change the keyboard layout and have that, actually influence that in some way. Because this is an archaic keyboard that's meant for typewriting, right?
Right.
Oh, QWERTY, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking it was going to
There's more efficient layouts for modern day use.
It's so ingrained.
Like Dvorak and stuff.
Yeah.
And you can change that in your Mac software. You can say, I prefer Dvorak. It just won't change. The letters are inked with the QWERTY layout.
But if anyone is bold enough, it would
to
be
make
Apple.
the default like Dvorak or something, and the ink them as Dvorak and have you change it?
It'd be called Apple Keyboard.
Well, that would
It
be
would,
the
yeah.
the
They
thing
would
about a
make their own
digital
thing.
keyboard. Yeah, is you would easily be able to change that.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I wonder if there's anyone at Apple that brave isn't the right word, but that forward
Have
thinking
courage.
is, when Steve Jobs said we need a on-screen keyboard, not a hardware keyboard for the
Yeah.
iPhone. I mean, I think a few heads exploded and thought that's never going to work. And even when the iPhone was released, people were like, on-screen keyboard? Now every phone is an on-screen keyboard, and we realized it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
But he was willing to take that leap. Now, is there anyone at Apple there who has that kind of insight?
And for that, I think the trade-offs are different than a laptop.
Right,
Because
right.
in that way, like in a phone, you're giving up at least a third of the front of your phone's
Right.
screen to a physical keyboard.
Right.
Having
the payoff
that,
is big. Yeah.
the payoff is big to having the bigger screen, and you don't type on it. Even today, where people use their phones way
Yeah.
more than then, you don't type on it like you do a laptop.
Right.
To the degree that you do on a laptop.
Right.
So I think the trade-offs are different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think they would take. I think that would be kind of a half step for them to go like, let's change the layout and have an Apple keyboard layout and tell everyone it's way more efficient typing. I think they would go all the way to saying it's configurable.
Yes,
Right,
it have to
right.
be something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting question, Dan. Yeah.
If they went, but if the standard keyboard just went to something, no, people would stop buying.
Have
those
any of you
things.
tried giving up QWERTY and trying to teach yourself Dvorak or one of these
I
other?
have. I'm too old.
Yeah.
It's like-
I've never tried.
I never
Dvorak,
even tried. I looked at it and I said it once for one thing and I just said, well, I'm not even going to do this. I didn't even give it an hour.
Yeah. So, but yeah, if you have a butterfly keyboard that needs to get fixed, go
Get it fixed.
Yeah,
get
it's
it fixed.
free now.
It's
Yeah.
free now. So,
And get
And-
that refund
yeah.
if you paid for it.
so. As a matter of fact, we're going to end the podcast here, so you can go get your keyboard fixed. So,
And your battery.
and your battery,
And your
and your
battery.
battery. So if we had the podcast now, you can get your battery and your keyboard fixed. So that just about does it for this week's episode of the Macworld Podcast, episode 611. We've done 611 of these, so pretty crazy.
Very crazy.
So
I mean, we haven't done
we
this.
haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't, but
I
yeah.
wasn't alive the first episode.
So I've been actually going back and I don't know if Dan's noticed this, but I've been going back and reposting old podcasts because they've kind of fallen off our site. So I've been trying to go back and repodcast because I'm like, it's kind of a shame that they're not accessible. So whenever I have a moment, like 15 minutes, I'll go do some work. So look for those old podcasts.
Not to delay the end of the podcast, but if you find one that has like an interesting topic that it would be neat to go back and look
Yes.
at, like
Yeah.
through the lens of now, like
Yeah.
did they predict right? Did they get it right? What changed?
Yeah.
What
You
are
know,
we
then
doing
maybe we
between
should have a
should-
podcast where we look at some
Oh,
of
that'd be cool.
a
Yeah.
handful of old podcast topics
Yeah.
and what they said, and then look at them.
Yeah. I'll keep an eye out for that. But yeah, join us next week for our podcast. We'll probably be on our regular
Wait.
time schedule.
Oh,
We
no,
have to
it's
be
July
It's
4th.
July
Oh,
4th.
next
we
week is
off?
July 4th.
Are we off or are we moving it?
We're off. So, yeah. So in the U.S., for those our international viewers, it's a holiday here in the U.S. We celebrate Independence Day on July 4th. This is a Wednesday.
It's the day we fought the aliens and won.
Yes.
Yes. So keep an eye on our website to see when the next episode of the Macworld podcast. We have to check our schedules and see what's going on. So
It'll probably just be normal time the week after.
yeah,
And then
we
the week
could-
after that, we have other things too.
But we still have to work on
Right.
Tuesday.
schedule's getting complicated this next couple.
We'll
of
figure it
weeks.
out.
We
So we'll
know
figure it
we're
out.
not on July 4th.
Yes.
Right.
So, in the meantime, look for an old podcast that I'm reposting on the website. So, but yeah, keep an eye on the website. We'll post when we'll be broadcasting again. So we've got some scheduling issues that we have to work out for the next podcast for podcast 612. So, but yeah, keep an eye out on macworld.com. I'd like to thank Leif and Jason.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Dan, our producer.
You're welcome.
And thank you, the viewer, for joining us. Like I said, check our website for the next episode of the Mac World Podcast. Thank you very much. See you guys later.
Happy 4th.